всім, хто долучився. Зараз ми стартуємо з роботою Медіа-центру Україна. Медіа-центр Україна – це ініціатива українських комунікаційників, яка спільно з Міністерством внутрішніх справ і з Міністерством оборони буде спрямована на підтримку журналістської діяльності в Україні. В першу чергу ми орієнтовані на західних журналістів для того, щоб надати їм максимальну допомогу, але, звичайно ж, працюємо із нашими українськими журналістами, з каналами. Медіа-центр, ми, власне, стартуємо сьогодні. Львівські наші колеги, які також, ми працюємо в єдиному режимі, вони також стартують сьогодні. І у нас будуть окремі розклади по Києву і по Львову, брифінгів, які будуть відбуватися. І ми про всі ці брифінги будемо повідомляти в нашому телеграм-каналі. У вас у всіх є посилання, у нас тут на місці є посилання, ви можете доєднуватися до телеграм-каналів і телеграм-каналу, і там будуть апдейти по всіх розкладах і по всіх спікерах. Прошу доєднатися для того, щоб ми просто не в змозі відповідати на всі особисті повідомлення від всіх журналістів. Це перше. Друге, зараз у вас є лінки на трансляцію на YouTube. Вся трансляція відбувається двома мовами. У нас є два канали. Один транслює англійською, другий транслює українською. Ви можете брати картинку і розповсюджувати таким чином, як вам зручно. З завтрашнього дня ці YouTube-канали будуть постійними. Ми завтра змінимо лінки і вони вже запрацюють в постійному режимі. Тому прошу вас долучатися, підписуватися і спостерігати за ними. Я хочу сказати, що тут на місці працює команда, невеличка команда, але працює. Мене звуть Аліна Фролова. Я є заступником правління Центру оборонних стратегій аналітичного синктенку. Оль, на сайті також є Оля Атаманова, яка працює зі мною, яка буде очолювати цей центр. Тобто ви можете звертатися, всі контакти у вас є. Тепер... Ми дуже вдячні Skyloft готелю за те, що вони прийняли нас на надали нам можливість. Ми дуже вдячні всім партнерам, які передали техніку, обладнання, людей і дали можливість запустити це в мінімальні строки. Якщо у журналістів є потреба, ви можете зупинятися в цьому готелі. Я думаю, що буде так зручніше для вас. Будь ласка, розміщуйтесь. Тепер ми будемо, крім того, що ми даємо брифінги, ми будемо допомагати західним журналістам, західним медіакомандам працювати в Україні. Тобто будемо намагатись допомагати з фіксерами, з організаційними питаннями, з питаннями акредитації, якщо вони виникають. Можете звертатися, ми зробимо все, що ми можемо в максимально короткі строки. Ми з вами знаходимося.
Our team on site asks you to go to the shelter. Please don't discuss those requests. Just go to the shelter. There is a shelter here. We have placed directions to that shelter everywhere, so should there be any danger, you're welcome to go to the shelter. Also, before some briefings, the premises will be checked, so we will ask you to leave the premises, to leave the room, so that we can check it from security perspective, and then you will be let in again. Today we are to have three briefings. The first of them will be by the team from Ministry of Internal Affairs, and that first briefing will be about the killing of a US journalist which happened yesterday, and also that video broadcasted by Ramzan Kadyrov about his presence in Ukraine. Then there will be a briefing by the Ministry of Defense about the current situation, and at 3 p.m. there will be a briefing with Russian prisoners of war, which are conscripts. You see, Mr. Putin told us that they have no conscripts here, just contract soldiers, but there are conscripts. You're welcome to submit any comments on organizational issues to our team, because we are running in the test mode now. We'll be handling those, and now we are to start our first briefing, and I'd like to introduce Vadym Denysenko, advisor to the Ministry of Internal Affairs of Ukraine. I have already announced the topic of this briefing, so Vadym, you're welcome. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. On behalf of the Ministry of Internal Affairs of Ukraine, I would like to first of all thank everybody who has been disseminating information about what's happening in Ukraine, who disseminate the truth about our war. As already said, the subject of our briefing is about two things. First of all, yesterday, a journalist from the United States was killed, Anthony Renaud-Brand, and his other colleague was wounded. Juan Diego Arredondo was wounded there. Basically, what we could tell you now, yesterday, on the 13th of March, about 1:30, 1:40 p.m., those two journalists from Time publication approached a broken bridge near Irpin between Romanivka village and town of Irpin in order to document the consequences of so-called special operation, or, as we all understand it, real war that the Russian Federation is running in Ukraine. After that, they crossed the bridge to the other side of the river and started walking toward the town of Irpin. They were approached by a driver from Lada car, painted in green, and suggested that he would accompany them across the town to another broken bridge, exploded bridge that they were looking for. The reporters agreed to that, and they entered the car and went to Soborna Street to the next residential block called Yesenin. They stopped on the way and started taking pictures of bombed buildings in that Yesenin residential block and the surroundings of that block. In several minutes, two persons approached them in green military uniform. Those were from the Russian military. They had assault rifles in their hands, and they shooted upwards as a warning. The driver responded to those shootings and made the sharp U-turn, and those soldiers in military uniform started shooting in automatic mode at that car. And during that shooting, Anthony Brent Renaud died because of wounds. He was shot in the head. The other journalist, Juan Diego Arredondo, born in 1975, was wounded with a bullet, and he has now been receiving medical care in Ahmedit Hospital in the city of Kyiv, and there is no threat for his life at the moment. His life is not under danger, as doctors say. Basically, since this car in which those journalists were moving was broken technically, they had to change to another car and to move the dead body to that car, which brought them to the bridge in Romanivka village. After that, the journalists crossed the bridge with ambulances, and they were brought to the city of Kyiv, where that wounded journalist was brought to Ahmedit Hospital. That's basically the up-to-date information that we have about that yesterday's incident where Russian invaders killed the U.S. journalist. Also, one of the important happenings yesterday was a video broadcasted by Ramzan Kadyrov, head of Chechnya, which is allegedly here in Ukraine. I'm not authorized to comment whether Ramzan Kadyrov is actually in Ukraine or not, but if you discuss the reasons for that video from the shelter, from the bunker, we have to mention several important things. First of all, in that video, there is a conversation recorded between Ramzan Kadyrov and the military from his so-called guards. And we can hear there that people from that guard approached the orphanage, and in that orphanage they haven't found any children there. It's quite likely that we think that one of the goals of those Kadyrov people is the orphanage in the city of Worzel, town of Worzel, and one of the goals was to capture those children, to use them, to take them hostages, so that later they would threaten Ukraine and the whole world, telling that they are keeping those children as hostages, or God save us, but maybe something worse would happen. Luckily, we managed to evacuate children even before that, so there were no children in that building. We have also to mention several other things which are very important. Why this video appeared? One important thing is this. In Russia, recently, even in Russia, but also in Ukraine, we have mentioned it many times already, and on the global scale, it has been mentioned many times that those Chechen guards play the role of so-called stopping units. Stopping units, you know, they are that term appeared in 1917, 1918 during the Bolshevik Revolution of 1917, 1918, when when Lev Trotsky raised an idea that behind the backs of those soldiers there would be those stopping units, and their objective, their task was this: when soldiers start fleeing, they would start shooting at them, forcing those soldiers to stay there in the trenches, to stay in the battlefield. And recently, among the radio communications intercepted, radio communications between the Russian military that we intercepted, we hear about the appearance of such stopping units. And it's also discussed in Russia quite a lot that Chechens are serving this role of stopping units in this war, this punishment role. So obviously Kadyrov had to show, to demonstrate that they're planning some military operation, that they're doing something, although by and large, and in that way they would have to stop the information disseminated also in Russian Federation, whereby they say that Chechens are nothing but those stopping units. Kadyrov wanted to change that idea, to change that opinion. The second important point for Kadyrov is this: during the first day of the war, quite a large part of his so-called guards were defeated near Kyiv, including near the town of Bucha. I think that many of you saw the videos with a lot of military equipment and vehicles broken in the city of Bucha, and it's considered that some Kadyrov people were there. More to it, one of the generals, Kadyrov's generals, was killed in that combat action, and quite a lot of so-called Kadyrov people were killed there. And it's important to hide this information in the Republic of Chechnya, and we understand that part of some elite troops, elite units of those Kadyrov guards were defeated there. So Kadyrov definitely understands that it would result in certain frictions inside Chechnya, in some problems inside Chechnya. Republic of Chechnya is rather small in terms of the number of population, and we understand that those people, those Chechen people in Chechnya, will definitely discuss it. So Kadyrov had to show that he is here with his people, that he is running this war, that he is in the front lines, and that he is planning some missions, some operations. That's what I can briefly tell in this regard. Thank you. If you have any questions, you are welcome to ask those, but please speak into the microphone. Are there any questions? Thank you. Thank you, then. Then our next briefing will be here in half an hour, and it will be a briefing by the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine.